Welcome to the Bahamians. The Bahamians is a media initiative of the Bahamian American Cultural Society. My name is Beryl Edgecombe, and I'm going to be hosting today's show, which is being brought to you from the Kendall Isaac Gymnasium here in Nassau, the Bahamas. My guest today is Portia Brown-Jordan, and Portia is going to be talking about herbal medicine, home remedies. Okay, welcome, Portia.
It's a pleasure being here.
Good. I'm glad you're going to spend some time with me to talk about herbal medicine.
Yes.
And home remedies. You know, that's a very hot topic on Family Islands.
Yes, it is.
But it is gradually moving into Bahamas as well as abroad United States.
Of course.
Okay, so let's before we begin to talk about medicine, home remedies. Tell me something about yourself. When did you become interested in home remedies and herbal medicine?
Would you believe it? I had an interest from the time I was 6 years of age, but by doing gardening at the age of 6 in the residence, the yard of our residence, and what had happened was I was doing it with plants. I realized I had a green thumb, so to speak, and I would would grow the plants asexually by breaking them off and having them to take root in water. And so I realized then that I had a talent in the area. And then at the age of 13, I have an uncle that practiced folkloric medicine. And he would take me along with him because he noticed I had a high interest in that area. He would take me along with him into the forest and show me the trees and tell me the names of the trees and the bushes that they would use for medicine. And I learned a lot from him, and that inspired me to go further. And I did a few courses in it, and also I did quite a bit of research in it by visiting other family islands and interviewing the elderly who had the knowledge of what happened when they were young in terms of what their mother gave them as a medicine that we could find in our backyards or somewhere in the neighborhood.
Like for instance, what kind of medicine did they suggest to you they used when they were
there's one that we call shepherd's needle, and it's very common. It grows profusely here in the Bahamas, and they would boil that to wash the eyes, and it sharpened their sight. And many of them have said they never wore eyeglasses because of the use of shepherd needle. And so I found that interesting. A lot of people do not know that. I believe had they known that, we would have less shepherd needles because it grows practically on every island. Yes.
Okay. So do you think that shepherd needle today is still as prevalently used or on the family islands, or are they kind of moving away from that?
I think they're kind of moving away from it. As a matter of fact, the folkloric approach, the economic times seem to draw people back there. Because they are finding it extremely expensive to go to a medical doctor or such and pay the high cost of medical bills. So many of them are seeking remedies at home, remedies that they can find in their backyards. And as a result of that, and then more people are becoming interested in natural health and preventative ways of bringing an illness to termination. And so we are finding that there's a louder call or greater interest in the area of natural medicine, also referred often as herbal medicine.
Okay.
Yes.
So now, do you find that say newborns parents with newborn kids are using that for, small kids have like colds and different things. Do you find that they begin to use the herbal medicine at a young age when they're young?
At a young age, yes, they even use it with infants, but the dosage is much smaller than that of a toddler.
Okay.
Young infants, and it's more diluted. Let's take, for example, the Sarasi. What we call the Sarasi.
Right.
Persons use it for the flu and for colds. And if they were going to use it in the case of an infant, it would be rather than what we would consider a tablespoon, or even in the case where young adults would take a half a teacup. For an infant, it would be like a quarter teaspoon.
Okay.
Once it's been diluted with water.
Okay, so there is some variation in age group within the home remedy medicine.
Yes, there is definitely a variation in the dosage.
Yeah. So, when did your uncle write a book on his findings?
Do you know, my uncle never did a book as such. Where the herbal medicine, he was a practitioner of herbal medicine, but he wrote many books, but the books that he wrote was more poetic.
Oh, I see.
And in some of those poetries, he would bring up the use of strongback and other such bush, love vine.
Right.
He would make mention of that in his poetry, but he never really wrote a book as such on the medicine, and this is why I made reference to him in my book.
I see. Well, strokes and Alzheimer's is
becoming
popular among all seniors. What do they suggest for those medicines, for those kind of ailments?
Well, number one. One has to look at the research that is coming out from the science area as to the underlying causes of these diseases, and one of the most common factors seem to be a toxic influence in the arteries or in the organs of the body, and the toxicity has resulted from years of aluminum poisoning or other invasive toxins in the bloodstream. That is a strong point that is being made in science right now in terms of affecting or bringing about Alzheimer's or dementia in persons over a period of time. And this is why you hear things such as even in dentistry, persons are becoming more and more concerned about the aluminum filling, because they also found some research stating that the aluminum does affect the brain cells. And so now, in terms of getting rid of it or treatment, personally I have advised, or I do advise persons to get into the natural air and oxygen. Let's say where you're in closed buildings over a period of time, and you're not going out to the outdoor air to get that exchange in oxygen among the trees. That is very, very important, because the brain cells have to be fed this exchange in oxygen. And we have found in our own research that persons who are inclined to be to have Alzheimer's or some of those what we call mental illness, as it affects a retardation in speech, a retardation in memory, or some loss of memory, that they try to get them in the open air among the trees daily, unless there's inclement weather that prohibits this.
Right.
And that seems to work. There is some slight improvement there. So I think we're onto something.
I see. Now, talking about the dentist and the aluminum, my dentist mentioned about regular cleaning. That too is one of the causes for the toxic in the body that has some kind of effect on the brain that can cause Alzheimer's, or different kind of disease that affects the brain.
Yes.
So they are suggesting that that persons get their teeth cleaned regularly to avoid some of those other ailments that seniors seem to get more so than young kids. Yeah.
And a lot of people are not aware of this, but even exposure to X-rays also transmits an amount of toxin in the bloodstream.
Okay.
And this is why persons have to be very, very careful as to the amount of X-rays they would have taken, these ultraviolet rays, during the course of a year. And I think the doctors try to be very, very cautious as to how many times a person is exposed to these ultraviolet rays, because they too have their toll on the body.
Okay, so what are some of the very important remedies that you have come across in your research that you find that are prevalent through the community today?
There's a late move right now for what we call the neem. All right, it was not around when I was a child. It was not around when my parents were young. But the neem right now, as we know, a lot of people are familiar with the Abaco neem, where we realize that our climate we can grow it, but it is an herb that is has so many benefits, so many health benefits. But like any other plant or any other herb, too much of it, you have to kind of be moderate in it. Even with the neem, if you're trying to overcome an infection or inflammation, which it's also good for. It's also good for high blood pressure. It's also good for what we call bacteria in the system.
Okay.
And one has to take it, the yardstick is to take it for 7 days and then hold up from it like any other medication. Doctors would prescribe a range of between 7 days to 14 days, depending on how severe the condition is. But we normally suggest that after 7 days, you should see some result. If you do not see any result or any improvement, then you lay off it.
When you say neem, how are you spelling that?
Neem, N-E-E-M.
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 Is that a wine or is that?
It's a tree.
It's a tree with leaves?
With the leaves, yes. Yes.
And is it prevalent throughout the Family Islands?
No, it's not prevalent throughout the Family Islands. As a matter of fact, it was transported here from the original, well, in the Caribbean, I know Haiti has been known to have a lot of it growing there until they start destroying the trees to make ships or make use the wood for boat.
Is that like a
very hardy. Yes, it's very. You have this solid bark. The tree trunk is very, very durable, very sturdy.
So it's a leaf, not a fruit.
It's a leaf.
It's a leaf.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a leaf.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it's what we call multi branch leafed, or what we would have something like about maybe 10 leaves to a stem.
Okay.
All right, alternating leaves, as
so
we would. And also another thing that we know, a parasitic plant which is called love vine.
Love vine, okay.
Been around
my child.
for a long time. That's right. And the interesting thing is, you could never find the root where it started. You will look that tree over, and you would never hardly find where did it start. And so that is a blood strengthener. And so in terms of energy, when you would beat the vine itself, you would boil the water, and then you would place the vine after it's been beaten in the water, and then until the water gets a little thicker, and let the vine stay there and settle for about half an hour. When it cools down, you can make a drink from it. You can sweeten it with honey, and energy. You get this burst of energy.
Wow.
And it's also good to wash the hair in. It strengthens the strands of the hair.
Today, toxic. Everyone wants something toxic in the body. It's people talking about that. Is there a medicine, a bush medicine that that is used for toxic in the body? That seems to be the thing.
Let me see which one would be one of the things. It may not be along the bush medicine route, but just the lemon itself, squeezed in a cup of warm water in the mornings, eliminates the toxins from the day before that had just the newcomers. If you're going to deal with toxin that has been built up over a period of time, this needs to be a progressive action, so that you would have to do it every morning. The first thing in your body as you wake up in the morning is to get this half a lemon to a cup of warm water, hot to warm water, stir it and drink that, and that eliminates all of that toxin that had been built up over the night before, the day before. And if you're doing it consistently, you'll find that it eliminates the toxins that had been built in the body for some time. Another good thing about that, as we speak about the toxin, is also excess fat in the arteries. It helps to eliminate a lot of the buildup of excess fat in the arteries as well. And so that people would never imagine how efficacious that particular lemon, and of course people would ask about the lime, but the lime also has some of the same ingredients, but it's not as acidic. The lemon is not as acidic as you would find the lime.
I see. Okay, interesting.
But in the absence of lime, you can go with the lemon. In the absence of lemon, you can go with the lime.
But you prefer the other.
But preferably the lemon, because it's more suitable for maintaining the alkalinic state of the body. As you know, you try to avoid the acidic, too much acid in the blood. You want a balance. You see, and so the as far as fighting diseases, we would want a body that's more alkalinic rather than acidic. Yes.
Well, another thing that's happening today that I guess men and others are not aware of is stroke, the onset of stroke. To avoid the onset of stroke, is there a medicine, herbal medicine that is suggested that we take to avoid that? Because it seems as if the onset of stroke, we're not aware, we're not taking note of it. So how do we prepare ourselves or keep ourselves in a position where stroke is not one of those ailments that will affect? And stroke is very dangerous.
Yes, it is.
If it's not taken care of as quickly as possible. And we have to look at some of the major causes of strokes too, and it has to do with some blockage somewhere in the artery. In most cases, that has been built up, the plaque and an acid that has been built up over a period of time. And so the aim is to try to eliminate that plaque, so that bit by bit we can have a smooth passage in the flow of blood throughout the arteries. And so back again to the lemon and the warm water, that is the number one. We also have what we call the apple cider vinegar, which is natural, and it kind of mimics the hydrochloric acid of the stomach lining when you eat your food. And in terms of the digestion of the food and breaking up of the food, you have this apple cider vinegar, that is the natural form of it. In a cup of water, maybe about 2 tablespoons full in a full glass of water. It helps also in the process of breaking up and eliminating the food, so that you there again would not have these blockages in your artery. You see, so if one does that on a regular basis, that should help. That plus getting the fresh air, you cannot get around it, and the exercise, and also
trying not to eat after. If you're a person that have a 9-to-5 job, try not. And you go to bed, you take your rest about anywhere between 8 and 11 o'clock at nights. Your last meal, your last heavy meal should be at 6. At 6 in the evenings. Now there are times, because of our schedule, that we might have events to attend and we did not get anything to eat all day, so therefore we find ourselves eating something heavy at night. But if we have to eat at night, we should make sure it's not meat which is more highly indigestible.
Okay.
And eat maybe a salad or some fiber, like an apple or some fruits. That would be more digestible for us to go to bed in another 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
And so part of our problem too that brings about blockages in the artery is the undigestible food in the bloodstream, where we go and lie down without the food being completely digested, and that food backs up somewhere while we are resting, because the heart then becomes in a state where it's going into what we call a relaxed gear when we're about to go to sleep. And so therefore all the activities of the circulatory system are not what we call that activated when we're about to go in a homeostasis state, a restful state. And so at that time we have to bear in mind that if we're going to go to bed by a certain time, we want to make sure that we have eaten at least 3 to 4 hours much earlier than the time that we go to bed. And that would help also in maintaining a healthy body and avoiding such things as arteriosclerosis, which is a blocking and hardening of the artery, and things of that sort.
Okay. We do try the Sarsi and the love wine.
Love wine,
and,
yes.
Another thing that they use it for high blood pressure, diabetes.
Yes, the periwinkle is also good for the diabetes. See, what we have put in here, we have put a collection of those. We had many. We did research on many, but what we did was we came up with the frequency in our research. Those herbs that were more efficacious, more effective, and reported as being the most effective ones. Those are the ones that we included here. Here is my first book, this novel.
Which is that?
Which is a love story.
Okay.
The Crack of Dawn, yes. It's a West Indian love story, actually, of a man and a woman being in love here in the Bahamas. And it was a match made from heaven.
Okay.
But there's someone that got in between to try to break it up. And so the two lovers were scattered for a while, but even though one went away, the love did not die. They found a way to come back together, and later got married and had a beautiful family.
Okay.
Yeah. This book here could be gotten online at the Kindle Direct store, Amazon.com.
Oh, okay.
This is the first one.
Okay. The Crack of Dawn.
The Crack of Dawn.
Portia Brown-Jordan.
Yes.
Okay. Is this So are those lovers together? Are they still around? Or?
Those lovers are together, and they're grandparents now.
Okay, interesting.
Yes, they're grandparents.
And they're aware that you wrote a book on this?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that family members or?
Family members, yes. But it's a book that's part fiction and part true.
I see.
Okay. The episode with the car, that is all fiction in there, but everything else. It's true.
Okay.
Right down to what we call the Bahamian dialect says spirits, for spirits or ghosts.
Right.
And where he was tortured in the nighttime by the spirits pulling on his big toe.
Okay, great. We're going to take a break.
Okay.
And let you show us how to prepare
the medicine. Okay. Today we will show you how to prepare the herbal medicine. We have the measurement, the standard measurement is a handful of leaves to a pint of boiling water. The water is boiled first and foremost. Then it's turned off. The heat is removed from under the pot, and the handful of herbs are submerged within the water. And the pot is covered. And this allows an infusion. We have a decoction as a result. Allow the leaves to be submerged within the water for at least 10 to 15 minutes. Locally, we use the term allowing the medicine to come to a draw, and that is to allow the nutrients to be extracted from the leaves into the water. The key is not to have the stove lit. The stove must be cut off immediately after the water has come to boil and the leaves are submerged, so that we allow it to stay within the water 10 to 15 minutes in order to withdraw the nutrients into the water itself. Now, in another half an hour to 45 minutes, it should have cooled down sufficiently for you to have tea or medicine as a result. That is one form of preparation. Another form of preparation may involve pulverizing the dried leaves or barks of the herbs. Having brought them to a very dry state, we mash them very fine until they are pulverized. They are brought to a powder base. And in many cases, when they're brought to the powder base, you have the already made capsules in which you're able to pour the powder, and you lock one capsule into the other, and you have what we call a tablet or pill that could be taken. In other cases, the pulverized herb can also be placed within a gauze bag or a cotton bag, and you can have it as a submersion for a tea. Those are ways of preparing the herbal formula to take internally. Now, we have something also that we call tinctures. And with the tincture, the difference with the tincture, once the herbs have been brought to boil, alcohol is added, vodka in most cases, as a preservative. And this is applied externally to wounds, to the skin, if there is an abrasion in the skin, abrasion in the skin, if there is also sores that have broken out over the body, and joints, pains in the joints, pains in other parts of the body, then you can use this tincture as a means of rubbing over the arm or the joint where the pain persists. There is also an application whereby you would take the leaves. This leaf that I have in my hand, by the way, is called the noonie leaf. And most people are familiar with the noonie fruit itself. Juice can be extracted automatically from a noonie fruit once it reaches a ripe state. And when it reaches a ripe state, it is more of a pale beige color, between a pale beige to brownish color. And what you do in a case like that is you would put the noonie fruit in a glass jar or a glass container and have it covered and place it in the sun. And when you allow it to remain directly in the sun for about 3 or 4 hours, you will begin to notice that water is already extracted from the fruit into the jar. And it's this high potent substance that can be taken in a full glass of water 2 tablespoons, and it is known as a blood cleanser. And so this is how most people in the island of Tahiti and other places use the home extraction of the nuni juice, which is very potent. No water is added at that point, where the sun does an automatic extraction of the nuni fruit. And when we are going to use it as a digestion, we would have to add some water to it, because the potency can be harmful. You have to dilute it so that it would be able to do what it has to do in the body. And that is 2 tablespoonful to a pint of water would be sufficient to absorb toxins in the body and also do blood cleansing. Many people are familiar with the nuni fruit and how the nuni drink is very effective in cleansing the blood. But many folks do not realize that the nuni leaf itself can also be used for pain in the back, pain around the waist, pain in the knee joint, pain in the ankles. And how that is done is we take a little olive oil, place it in the frying pan, take the nuni leaf, and we submerge the leaf just long enough to be heated in the oil, and the warmth and the heat absorption with the oil is applied to the area of the body where the pain exists. Let's say, for example, the pain is in the ankle, around the wrist. Then the olive oil that has been placed on the nuni leaf and heated is bound around the ankle area where the pain is and kept in place for about 2 to 3 hours, preferably overnight, so long as the band is not so tight that it restricts the flow of blood. And one will notice a tremendous change within 6 to 7 hours in the area where that pain exists. The same method is used for pain in the back and pain around the waist, but you would have to get sufficient leaves in order to do that, so that whenever you are applying the leaves, you must always back it. And what we mean when we say back it, let's say, for example, get sufficient leaves. If I'm doing the waist, I'm going to have a lot of leaves, and it must cover the entire area fully, right around the waist. Sufficient leaves to cover the entire waist right around. And there is a gauze bandage or cotton cloth that could be laid upon the leaves with large safety pins to fix it in place so that it would not move about, and allow that to stay there overnight, or allow it to stay for 6 or 7 hours, and you would begin to notice a change in the area where the pain exists. There was a gentleman once that had some pain within the back, and it's amazingly how the nuni leaf worked. It started around his neck area. We used the same application around the neck area, and we had him to get an undershirt that would keep it in place, and the pain moved from the neck immediately down to the back, the central portion of the back. And we had to do a second application the second day. By the third day, that pain had moved, with the third application, had moved from the back down below the hip and into the leg joints, so that we had to deal with 2 legs now, because the pain had now radiated to both legs. And By the weekend, within a week, that pain was gone, but it ended up in the foot and it was gone after that. With the same application being followed throughout the body externally until the pain had been removed. The application, once again, of the noonie leaf application, and this of course goes for other bushes that you're going to apply externally to the body for the removal of pain. We have something in the book here called Match Me If You Can, and it's a leaf that's very colorful, and the reason it's called Match Me If You Can is because not two leaves are identical. Every leaf is completely different. And that Match Me If You Can, and here's a picture of it where I'm pointing, for sprains and for pains in the leg. Like, for example, a lady might be walking in high heels and she just happened to bend her feet in the process and get a sprain, and what happens as a result is to apply those same leaves using the same method as the noonie leaf. And the noonie leaf also can be used for that same purpose, for sprains. So we use the oil, we heat the leaves, and it should only be for seconds so as not to destroy the nutrients. Only at a point where you have it warm, and then once it's warm enough, then the application goes over the afflicted area. And it must be bandaged in place. But the bandage must not be so restricted so that the flow of blood is impeded. Now I would like to, for those persons having fibroid tumors, the aloe vera is very, very useful for that. And how it is prepared is the skin is taken off, so that we end up with the gel from the center of the aloe vera. We can go to the pharmacy and get a gauze bandage, and we have some here to demonstrate, where we take the aloe vera and we wrap the aloe vera within the gauze bandage. We cut the excess gauze. We have a needle and thread. I had a piece here just now. Can't fully put my hands on it, but we take the needle and thread to stitch the gauze and the aloe vera up so that it would not escape. And this is inserted in the bone. Once it's inserted in the bone, it will be there all day until evening when a new application is made. And this is done for about 7 days. I want you to know that most medications and most treatments are done for a period of 7 days. You should begin to see the results of applications or medications. Within 3 days, you should begin to notice a change. In 7 days, that change should have been effective, so that the application that you would use it continuously every day until those 7 days are up, and you should have effected a cure. So we have the gauze bandage, we have the aloe vera within, it's inserted within the bone, and in most cases there are people that put a string attached to it so that they are able to easily expel what has been injected. And so that is, in a nutshell, what we would do in preparation for the various herbal formula. This is just what we would say a little taste of what we do generally in preparation of herbal formula for patients. This information can be found in either of these two books, the Nature's Remedy or the Herbal Remedy and Home Medicine and Home Remedies, yes, Herbal Medicine and Home Remedies. Either book you will find these treatments. And you can get them. They are located here in the Bahamas. And the smaller one is located at Amazon.com and can be found on Amazon.com, the smaller book. So, what about that one? This one can be found locally here in most of the bookstores in Nassau, Bahamas. Or I can be contacted at Post Office Box N7006, Nassau, Bahamas, or at email phj12@hotmail.com. Email phj12@hotmail.com. Yes, and my name, I should have introduced myself initially. My name is Dr. Portia Brown-Jordan, and I'm very happy to share this valuable information with you because many times it's a little expensive to go to the doctor, but nonetheless, there are home remedies and home treatment that you can use to effect a cure. And so I thank you for this opportunity to share with you what many folks will find easily obtained remedies, and they can get them from their health food stores. They can get them from their yards if they live in a tropical region. So I thank you, and I would be willing to help you. You may contact me, phj12@hotmail.com, or at Post Office Box 7006, Nassau, Bahamas. Thank you. I would like to share briefly with you the contents of two of my books that should be out between now and December. This first one here is called Mind Games. And what it's about, a lot of people have problem controlling their thoughts. And it keeps them awake at nights. It keeps them experiencing many sleepless nights. There are those that have many problems, and what the book actually tells you is how the thoughts usually begin in terms of the scientific origination of these thoughts, and then how to control the thoughts. And the thoughts are controlled through spiritual means. And also this book would tell you about the experiences of various persons that have been surveyed, and case studies that we have included to show that you're not alone out there, that indeed there are thoughts that become uncontrollable. And this book provides you with encouragement as well as to solutions in dealing with those uncontrolled thoughts. The second book, which is called Mr. Manus Returns to the Caribbean, targets our young people of today, particularly those that have forgotten the values and the mores that we have in our society 30, 40, 50 years ago. And Mr. Manus is a character who has been brought up in that environment of respect, and showing respect for the elderly, showing respect to his superiors. And he wants to in turn return to his homeland, which is in the Bahamas, which is in the Caribbean, and pass those traditions on to young people in the schools and throughout the nation. And so what he deals with is etiquette, how young men should treat young ladies, respect for the elderly, how to keep your environment clean, how to respect your country and also the laws of your country. and more, of course. But in a nutshell, this book is a book that is timely for the changes that are taking place in our society where human behavior is concerned. And so we would like to instill these principles, make youngsters, that is boys and girls, aware of the tradition of home training and family upbringing. And so it will have a positive impact on our youth. And we will be able to let you know where you can obtain these books by the end of the year. But in the meantime, if you're interested, you can reach me at P.O. Box N 7006 Nassau, Bahamas, or email me at phj12 hotmail.com. Thank you for the opportunity once again. Yes, I would like to, should I introduce myself again? Yeah. Hello, my name is Dr. Portia Brown-Jordan, and I am an herbalist, and I would like to share with you today the neem leaf. Here we have a live branch from the neem tree, and this herb is very good for many sicknesses. It's used for HIV, in the case of AIDS. It's used also for high blood pressure. It's used for diabetes. It's used for as a blood cleanser overall, and it also is used for inflammation and infections. And how it is done, if you have a neem tree in your yard, just one leaf. Of course, this is rinsed, but just chewed. And swallowed a day. Just one is necessary a day. And you can do that for 7 days. And thereafter, every 3 days. You will find how potent it is, because by the third day, as a matter of fact, some people have told me they have seen a reduction in their blood pressure or in their sugar level within 2 days of using the neem leaf. Another way in which it is used is to form a decoction or an infusion, and that is to get a pint of water, bring it to a boil, and then receive about 3 of the leaves, which would be the equivalent of a handful to a pint of water. So if I were to, this would be equivalent to a handful of leaves to a pint of water. And I would submerge these leaves within the hot boiling water with the heat removed and allow it to simmer on its own. And within 15 minutes, it's ready for ingestion. It's ready for you to have a cup, we may say a cup of tea. But I must caution you that the neem is extremely bitter. So if you are accustomed to bitter taste and you have no problem with it, you would find it very ideal for the various ailments that I did mention earlier. In some cases, there are persons that would rather go the bitter route rather than receiving insulin or an injection. So I thank you for this opportunity to share with you the efficacy of the neem tree. And the neem tree, of course, many people can go online and just Google neem. But if you want to know more about the personal use as it is in the tropics where the neem grows profusely, you may reach me at phj12 at hotmail.com or at Post Office Box N 7006 Nassau, Bahamas. And I will be able to answer some of your questions and concerns as it relates to the name. Oh, by the way, let me just share quickly with you some positive results that we have received stateside, because I am speaking from the Bahamas at this time. There was a gentleman in Texas that was to have had his leg amputated like on Monday. He was told about the name, and someone whom I had gotten permission from the U.S. Agriculture Department to send it over was able to share some of the leaves that he had left with this gentleman over the weekend. And when he went in on Monday, they took a test before taking him into the theater and realized that his sugar level had normalized and they did not need to do the amputation. So I call it the miraculous herb. So should you have further questions concerning it, do kindly write me or contact me at the above address. I would be happy. By the way, the neem has been around for some time, particularly in the island of Haiti, in the Caribbean. But persons have just recently, over the last few years, begin to become more conscious of its efficacious effect and how it is so useful for so many forms of diseases. It is able to effect a cure. And so it's an herb that is called a remedial drug, and it's indeed a benefit to so many, and it has saved so many lives. So we would be happy to share more, provide you with more information should you need it at this time. Thank you, and God bless you.